She never valued you for who you truly are, only for what she could get from you. And you, deluded, thought that smile was love, that those sweet words came from the heart, that the way she looked into your eyes meant she saw your soul. But no. What she saw was a resource, someone to fill her emptiness, someone to validate her existence. Have you ever heard what Kant said about human dignity? That we must never treat a person as a means, but always as an end in themselves. And there lies the cruel irony. While you made her the center of your life, she was using you as a tool. You saw her as a purpose. She saw you as utility. Female approval has become the new addiction of the modern man. We've become dependent on compliments, likes, affectionate messages, and when all of that is taken away, we panic. We start begging for crumbs of attention. We plead, we diminish ourselves, we lose the little pride we had left. Sound familiar? That's because all of us, at some point, have felt that. We've traded our dignity for a bit of superficial affection. Kant spoke of the categorical imperative, that we should act only according to principles we'd want to become universal laws. But deep down, many of us act out of our own desires, insecurities, and needs. We've lost our center. Our morality bends not to what is just, but to what pleases. And that's where everything collapses. When your value as a man depends on it, woman's opinion, you're no longer free. You become a slave with the illusion of freedom. The paradox is brutal. The more you need her validation, the less she respects you. The more you chase, the more she withdraws. It's an invisible law, but a relentless one, and it destroys you from within, like a black hole sucking in your self-esteem, your purpose, your identity. Kant said there are two worlds, the world of appearances and the world of what is real. Your relationship with her was just appearance, a carefully staged performance, and you were the only one who didn't know you were acting. She had known the script from the beginning. You believed in the story as if it were real. You improvised, with your heart, thinking you were living something unique. Remember when she said you were special? It wasn't true, you were convenient. When she swore she'd never felt anything like this before, it was just a tactic. And that moment she cried in your arms saying she couldn't live without you. Sophisticated manipulation. And the most dangerous part, it's not always conscious. Sometimes they believe their own words as they say them. And that's what makes them so convincing. That's why you let yourself be drawn in, again and again. Schopenhauer, with his dark view of human nature, said that women held a secondary position. It sounds harsh, even misogynistic, but what he meant to point out was something else, a survival strategy. It's not about malice, but adaptation. For thousands of years, their survival depended on the protection of a man. So they evolved using emotional tools, seduction, drama, apparent fragility, weapons as sharp as any other. And you, armed with the logic of someone who's read a few books, thought you could win that game with reason. Naive. It's like trying to argue with the wind. Kant believed in the power of reason, in duty, in acting according to universal principles. But when she captivates you with that gaze, with that carefully affectionate touch, your reason evaporates. You become pure emotion, dominated by the need to please. And at that moment, you lost the war before you even knew you were fighting one. The search for female validation has become an emotional trap. You know taking the bait will hurt, but you do it anyway. Because the idea of living without that sparkle in her eyes seems even more painful. And that is the fatal mistake of the modern man. Believing that romantic love will complete him. You're looking in her for what you should be finding in yourself. You seek meaning in kisses, identity in hugs, purpose in her eyes. But no one can give you what you haven't built within. All she can do is reflect your emptiness with a smile you interpret as love. Kant spoke of autonomy, the ability to be your own judge, your own compass. But you handed over your worth to her, like a child offering his most precious toy to a stranger. And she plays with it. One day she lifts you with praise, the next she destroys you with silence. It's the cruelest emotional carousel there is. And you buy another ride as if it were a gift. Why do we do this? Because we were programmed this way from childhood. They told us a woman's love would make us whole, that without her approval, we'd be failures, that our masculinity is measured by our ability to win them over and keep them happy. A lie. Your masculinity is measured by your firmness when everything falls apart, by your strength to keep going when no one supports you, by the courage to say no when it means staying true to your values. But that's not what we were taught. We were taught to obey, to please, to bow our heads when disapproved of. Aristotle spoke of virtue as the balance between extremes. But in modern love, there's often no balance. Either you dominate or you're dominated. And when you seek approval at any cost, you've already chosen your place. You've already accepted the condition. You've already dug your own emotional grave with the trembling hands of neediness. Napoleon conquered almost all of Europe, but he couldn't conquer the heart of a single woman. While he risked his life in the Egyptian desert, Josephine was betraying him. While he built an empire, she was forgetting him. And when he found out, the emperor cried. He begged. He forgave the unforgivable. If even the most powerful man in the world bowed before unrequited love, what hope is there for the rest of us? The search for female validation can be more addictive than any drug. It doesn't destroy the body. It destroys identity. It silently erodes your sense of purpose, self-worth, and clarity of being. Kant distinguished pathological love from practical love. The first is blind desire, a disguised need. The second is respect, conscious choice, reciprocity. But what many call love today is, in truth, obsession masked as romance. A simple, "I love you" triggers more dopamine than any illicit substance, and yet that "I love you" often comes with hidden clauses, with expiration dates, with conditions, and the cruelest part, deep down you know it. But you'd rather cling to a comfortable illusion than face honest solitude. Nature is relentless. It follows its own codes, genes, survival, strategy. You may be nothing more than a passing chapter, just one of many names on a long list of convenient choices, but you interpret it all as love. You confuse instinct with emotion, strategy with sincerity, and in that illusion you lose yourself. Kant believed that human beings could rise above their impulses through the power of reason. But when you live for her approval, when you shape your identity based on the reflection you see in her eyes, you fall on hard. You become the street performer waiting for coins, the dog doing tricks for affection, the emotional prisoner of a game you'll never win. Want the harshest truth? She doesn't need you, she never did. You are replaceable, interchangeable. There are countless others willing to offer what you offer. Attention, support, affection, while you live in the fantasy of being irreplaceable, unique, special. But real love doesn't come with a barcode. It doesn't have an expiration date. What you experienced was generic, packaged with pretty promises but hollow inside. And maybe it's time to admit that, not with bitterness, but with clarity. Because it's only when you stop begging for value outside of yourself that you begin to build it from within. Schopenhauer didn't soften his words. He said that only a man blinded by his own sexual impulses could call the fair sex a species of small stature, narrow shoulders, wide hips, and short legs. Brutal. Yes, but also lucid. His critique wasn't moral, it was an exposure of illusion. The truth is that your perception is contaminated. You see goddesses where there are only ordinary people. You see love where there is convenience. You imagine eternity where there's only a strategically calculated present. Female validation is a mirage in the desert of your emotional neediness. You run toward that image, believing it will complete you, save you, make you someone. But the closer you get, the more it retreats. And when you finally touch it, you realize it was just sand, hot sand burning your throat. Kant spoke of the kingdom of ends, a world where no one should be used as a means to an end. But in the modern game of relationships, everyone is a means. She is the path to you feeling validated. You are the tool to her feeling desired. There are no ends, only trades, only strategies. Is that wrong? No, that's reality. The mistake is not knowing the rules. You play chess with your heart on your sleeve, while she plays poker with hidden cards. You show everything, she hides everything. And that's why you always lose. You don't need her. You need yourself. The problem was never the other person. The problem is the cracked mirror inside you. You beg for affection because you're empty within. And she can tell. She senses it, instinctively, not out of cruelty, but by nature. Like a predator senses the weakness of an injured prey, the problem isn't women. The problem is the lie you were told. Since childhood, you were taught that a woman's love would crown your masculinity, that being good, loyal, and kind would make love come as a reward. A lie. You confused obedience with love, kindness with worth, and you sold your soul for lukewarm gestures, for conditional attention, for promises that never materialized. Nietzsche declared the death of God. But he forgot to declare the death of modern romanticism, the real religion that enslaves, the cult of emotional neediness, the worship of female approval. And like a blind devotee, you sacrifice everything: time, energy, dignity, purpose. You burn your life on the altar of a love that does not exist, and the gods are gone. But you still pray to hollow statues. The real question is, do you remember the last time you said no to a woman who desired you? When was the last time you said no? The last time you stood your ground against her insistence? The last time you chose your purpose over the whim of a moment? You don't remember because it never happened. You are addicted to validation. An emotional junkie, and like every addict, you've hit rock bottom, but you keep digging. Every rejection cuts your ego like a sharp blade. Every "let's just be friends" is a veiled sentence against your masculinity. Every "you're not my type" is yet another piece of evidence of your own existential irrelevance. But here lies the supreme irony. Your mediocrity doesn't come from their rejection. It comes from your need. You've become small because you beg for what you should conquer. You plead for what you should attract. You chase what, in another time, should be chasing you. Kant spoke of moral duty as the compass of action, but your only duty seems to be pleasing her. You've become an emotional acrobat, a sentimental clown, a circus monkey dancing faster each day, afraid of being replaced by someone younger, taller, more desirable. And the more you try to please, the less she's interested. The more you offer yourself, the more she pulls away. The more you seek approval, the more pathetic you become in her eyes. This is the iron law of attraction, and you break it daily, hoping for a different ending. Einstein called it insanity, doing the same thing and expecting different results. So then, all men trapped by female validation are, by definition, insane. You, me, all of us. Trapped in this silent epidemic that corrodes the soul and emasculates the spirit. Do you know when you lost? The moment your peace began to depend on a text message. That exact moment when your world started revolving around a scene, an emoji, a dry reply, or a digital heart. Right there, you stopped being a man and became a reflection. You became Pavlov's dog. She rings the bell. You respond. She says come and you run. She says go away and your world falls apart. Classical conditioning, only now applied to love. Aristotle spoke of eudaimonia, human flourishing, happiness as the highest expression of virtue. But your version of happiness? It's a like on your photo, a reply after hours, a smile that might mean something, might not. That's what you've become. And you call this love? One night in his bed. And you call that eternal love, a lingering gaze. And you call it destiny. Female validation has become your emotional fast food. Quick, cheap, addictive. In the moment, it's delicious. It fills the void for a few seconds. But it doesn't nourish, it doesn't build, it doesn't strengthen. It only feeds the hunger, more need, more dependency. And the cycle begins again, like a drug disguised as affection. Today she desires you and you feel like a god. Tomorrow she ignores you and you turn to dust. Your worth fluctuates like unstable stocks on the market, but she controls the market. She decides when you're worth something, and when you're worth nothing at all. And what would Kant say about this? He'd say you violated the most basic principle of human dignity. You made yourself an instrument, a means to her ends, an emotional object, a trampoline for someone else's ego. And the most tragic part, you accepted it willingly, with a smile, on your face and your heart, served on a silver platter, grateful for crumbs. The Stoics spoke of ataraxia, unshakable serenity, a state of peace that doesn't depend on someone else's mood, on glances, messages, invitations, or silences. But you You are pure reactivity, pure emotional volatility. She wakes up in a bad mood and you rot inside. She smiles and you float. She frowns and you collapse. You don't live, you react. You're an emotional thermometer disguised as a man. And she controls the temperature. You're a spiritual puppet. And she pulls the strings with practiced fingers. Until when? How long will you keep playing this game where the only guarantee is your defeat? Until she replaces you with someone more exciting, more indifferent, more alpha. Until your self-esteem turns to fine dust slipping through the fingers of memory? Until you look in the mirror and no longer recognize the man you once dreamed of becoming? Time doesn't wait. And every second you waste seeking approval in her eyes is a second less devoted to your purpose, to your mission, to your essence. You were made to be vast, but you live crawling for scraps of affection. You were born to build worlds, but you settle for fixing hearts that don't even know what they want. The truth no one will tell you is simple and cruel. She despises you for needing her. She may never say it out loud, may not even admit it to herself, but deep down she recoils from your neediness, because deep down she longs for a man who doesn't desire her out of need. She wants a man who is complete without her, whole by himself, someone whose purpose goes far beyond making her happy. But what do you offer? Need disguised as love, dependency dressed as devotion. And then biology enters the stage, the old and ruthless biology. Millions of years of natural selection screaming inside her. Flee the weak, avoid the needy, reject the man who crawls. Schopenhauer saw it with surgical clarity. Man throws himself into battle, builds empires, challenges nature and his peers, all because of women. But in this battle you give up the very thing that would make you desirable, your independence. You surrender your inner fortress in an attempt to buy love with weakness. And here lies the paradox. To win her, you must not need her. To keep her, you must be willing to lose her. She will only truly love you if you've already learned to love yourself first, but you hate yourself. And that's why you need her love as anesthesia. You're empty, and demand that she fill you. You're broken, and expect her to fix you. But she's not your therapist, not your mother, not your savior. She's just a woman, a human, being with her own traumas, desires, insecurities, her own survival strategies. And you crowned her a goddess, made her the center of your universe, made her attention your reason for existing. Kant spoke of the categorical imperative. Act only according to that maxim, whereby you can at the same time will that it should become a universal law. If all men acted like you, civilization would collapse. Because men who beg for affection don't build cathedrals, don't cross oceans, don't write epics. They just send pathetic messages at 3 a.m. hoping for a hey stranger that never comes. Cheesy poems she reads with her friends while laughing. Desperate gestures that only confirm her control over you. Declarations of love that sound more like begging than real passion. You've become the man Nietzsche despised. The last man. The one who abandoned the will to power. The one who traded infinite potential for the approval of someone who will forget him the moment something more exciting shows up. And it always does. Because hypergamy isn't an opinion. It's biology. She's always seeking to rise, and you, with your pulsating neediness, are stuck in the basement of the hierarchy. You're the step she climbs to reach higher ground, the temporary trampoline until the permanent one arrives. Want to wake up? Then listen carefully. Your purpose is not to make her happy. Your purpose is greater than any woman, more important than any relationship, more transcendent than any fleeting validation. But you forgot. You buried that truth under layer after layer of fairy tales, rom-coms, and pop songs. You were conditioned to worship the idea of love as redemption, but all you got was a prison. Kant lived his entire life in Königsberg, never married, never chased women, and still he shaped modern philosophy. His name still echoes today. And yours? What will your legacy be? He was a good boyfriend? He always made her smile. Pathetic. The great men understood something. You still don't. Women are a complement, not the center. They are the spice, not the meal, the warrior's rest, not the war itself. But you inverted everything. You made her your battle, your reason to exist. And in doing so, you lost the very thing that could have attracted her. Your purpose, your magnetism, your masculine essence, because biology, unlike you, knows exactly what it wants. It wants the man on a mission, the man who builds, who leads, who transcends, the man who protects, provides, and projects the future. But you have none of that. You orbit around her like a broken planet, hoping the gravity of your adoration will rebuild your worth. But love without a backbone is repulsive, and that's what you've become. An existential contradiction, a vicious cycle of need, a shadow of the man you were meant to be. Nietzsche spoke of the Übermensch, the Superman, the one who transcends himself, who creates his own values. But you are the Untermensch, the subman, the one who crawls, the one who begs, the one who sacrifices his potential at the altar of female need. And for what? A few years of lukewarm sex, the illusion of companionship, the momentary relief from loneliness. It's not that you love her, it's that you're terrified of yourself, terrified of silence, of your own mind, of the mirror. You look to her for distraction, a comfortable noise to escape your most brutal truth. You can't stand your own existence. You can't stand to be alone with your demons, and so you call it love. But it's not love, it's emotional anesthesia. And what happens to all anesthesia? It wears off. And when it does, the pain comes back tenfold. Because you didn't just lose her. You lost yourself in the process. You sold your soul for a dream that became a slow-motion nightmare. And now here you are, listening to this, knowing that every word cuts because it's true, knowing that every sentence is a mirror, a distorted yet honest reflection of the fractured man you've become. But maybe, just maybe, there is a way out. And it begins with a choice to let go. Let go of the need. Let go of the validation. Let go of the idea that love will save you. Choose yourself for the first time in your life, and that will be the end. Not the end with flowers and background music. Not the end with romantic redemption. Not the end of a rom-com, but the end of the lie. Here's the raw truth. As long as you need her validation, you are a slave. As long as your worth depends on her opinion, you are less than a man. As long as your happiness is in her hands, you will live in hell. Kant died a virgin but free. Schopenhauer died alone but whole. Nietzsche died insane but lived on his own terms. And you? How will you die? Begging for one last message, hoping for one last look, pleading for one last kiss. The matrix of romantic love is powerful. It tells you that without her you are nothing, that love justifies everything, that it's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. Lies. All lies. Designed to keep you docile, productive, and paying. Here is the truth: you are already complete right now in this very moment without her validation, without her gaze, her touch, her approval. But you don't believe that. You can't believe that because you were taught otherwise from the start. You were programmed to be the good provider, the good protector, the good emotional slave, and you followed the script to perfection so well that you forgot a fundamental truth: you are more than the program. But listen closely. The program can be broken. The matrix can be hacked. The conditioning can be undone. There is only one thing you need, and maybe still lack: courage. The courage to be alone, to be rejected, to go unseen, to exist without approval. Aristotle said man is a political animal. But he never said man was needy, crawling, dependent. That part was added by you, by us, when we fell into the trap. And now you've reached the end of this manifesto. And there are only two choices. Go back to the life of neediness, of likes, of unanswered messages, of sleepless nights begging for crumbs of affection. Or wake up to your true power. Keep being the dog that wags its tail, and or become the wolf that howls at the moon expecting no answer. I won't tell you what to choose. You're too old to need permission. But I'll tell you one thing. She won't save you, she never has. None of it will save you. The only salvation possible comes from within, from accepting your existential solitude, from embracing your purpose like a warrior embraces his sword, from building your inner empire, where you are the only emperor. Wake up. Not because I said so, but because it's long past time to stop sleeping. Female validation is killing you. Slowly. Every day you live for her is a day stolen from your greatness. Every hour spent trying to decode her is an hour not spent building your legacy. Every minute lost interpreting signs is a minute you did not truly live, and life is short. Too short to live it on your knees. If this truth hurt, it's because it needed to. Like, subscribe if you want more truths no one else dares to say. Share this with the friend who needs to wake up. Comment below, what was your breaking point with female validation? This channel is for those who dare to see behind the veil, for those who chose the red pill, for those who prefer brutal freedom over comfortable slavery.